Not guilty was the verdict inside a Manhattan courtroom today for Daniel Penny, the Marine veteran who was accused of fatally choking a homeless man, Jordan Neely, on a crowded subway car in May 2023. It was a dramatic moment in court, the moment this verdict was read. And for many of us covering it, the circumstances and the timing were surprising because on Friday, the jury had failed to reach an agreement on a manslaughter charge that Penny had faced. And we had thought, perhaps when they come back Monday to look at the lesser charge, criminally negligent homicide, perhaps they will, have a hung jury on that as well. But instead, just a couple hours after beginning deliberating on Monday morning, the jury came back not guilty. There were some cheers in the courtroom. The court officers told those cheering to calm down. It was a tense scene in general because there were some cheers, and then the family of the man who died was there as well. His father was there, his uncle were there, other supporters, and they, as you might imagine, were horrified to see this result. And so you had some people cheering, and then ultimately it ended with the father, Andre Zachary, the father of Jordan Neely, being escorted out of the courtroom after he couldn't contain the emotions that he was feeling. Immediately after the verdict was read, we saw a different side of Daniel Penny that we've seen throughout this month-long trial. He flashed a smile and hugged his lawyers. And for several weeks, he sat there super stoically, just staring straight ahead, really not showing any sign of emotion at all, not being happy or upset with what was going on. And only he can say what that moment was like for him, but we saw a side of him that we hadn't seen. We saw a smile, then the embrace from his lawyers. And just a couple hours after the verdict, Penny was drinking drinks with his lawyers at a downtown bar, seemingly in super high spirits after all of this. We were able to get there and take photos of him grinning and smiling, and he said he felt great when we asked him how he was feeling. This has been a very tense trial. There's no other way to put it. It's one of those cases that has divided the country and has divided New York. I don't think it's for me to say what this outcome means, but certainly one possibility is that the jury believed the self-defense claim that Penny was making. That was one of his two main defenses, the other being that he said that the chokehold wasn't the reason that Neely died. And the self-defense thing is interesting because part of the definition of self-defense is what is reasonable. And the final note that the jury sent back before issuing their verdict they had asked the judge to define what is reasonable. In the context of this case, that means that to convict, they would have had to find that Daniel Penny acted unreasonably in restraining Neely for 6 minutes, including after nearly all of the other passengers had left the train. And it seemed like the juries, or at least some of them, were confused about what reasonableness meant. And the judge, in some substance, told them that it's up to you, that you have to decide what is reasonable. It looks like one explanation for this verdict may be that the jurors found that prosecutors hadn't proven that Penny wasn't justified in what he did to restrain someone that witnesses described as scary of a person that they had seen on the subway.
For more stories like these, be sure to subscribe to the New York Post right here on YouTube.